So we saw how perception works and how it cannot lead you to knowing the truth. It is not a pramana, a means for knowing the truth about yourself. The second most popular means of knowledge, which comes into existence because perception is not enough everywhere, is called inference, anumana. We use inference all the time in our lives. You hear a sound outside. You heard the sound, that much is perception. You infer there is a vehicle outside. This comes to the picture because what can be inferred is not available for perception. Right now, sitting here, the car outside is not available for your perception. Sound is available. So in Vedanta, Anumana is a very simple process. In Nyaya is very elaborate. Nyaya Vaisheshika is very, very elaborate. Because they depend predominantly on Anumana. So in the way Vedanta looks at it, it is very simple. For an inferential conclusion, you need to have Vyapti Jnanam. Now what is Vyapti Jnanam? If you look at an English translation in the books, you will find invariable concomitance. That's called Vyapti. It's better to use the word Vyapti, it's simpler. Otherwise it will look like Sashi Tharoor speaking. Okay. So what is a Vyapti? A Vyapti is something you gain from your previous knowledge. The common example given is, you see smoke on the hill out there and you infer there is fire. You will say, Parvato Vanniman. There is fire on the hill. Why? The reason, Dhumatvat, because there is Dhumaha, smoke. For that, you will give an example. Yatha Mahashalayam. In that great kitchen. So a modern child will scratch his head and say, what is the connection between kitchen and smoke? Because that Vyapti Jnanam has to be there. That wherever there is smoke, there is fire. That's called Vyapti Jnanam. Yatra yatra dhumaha, tatra tatra agnihi. It's called Anvaya. Yatra yatra dhumaha, tatra tatra vannihi. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Now this Vyapti Jnanam you gain from your previous experiences. Either a wood fire. Nowadays you will have to say like a campfire. Because kitchen is all gas. Where do you see smoke and fire? Therefore, like a campfire, like a barbecue. Okay. Something. Wherever you have seen. If there is no Vyapti Jnanam, you cannot make an Anumana. Okay. How will you make an Anumanam? Supposing you do not know the connection between that sound and the car. That this type of sound is made by a car. You heard it outside. You have seen it outside. You would not be able to make a Vyapti. That Vyapti Jnanam is very important. Gained from previous knowledge, previous experience. Therefore, all Anumana Jnanam has its base on previous knowledge. Because the Vyapti Jnanam is there. Perception, you can see a new thing and recognize it. Anumanam has to have this Vyapti Jnanam. And if you have Vyapti Jnanam, only then you will be able to make an Anumanam. The Vyapti is gained through perception, etc. Can be gained through various things. Therefore, in Vedanta, Anumanam is very simple. Now, any Anumanam can have its Upadhis. Upadhis means limiting things. Supposing what you saw was not smoke, but fog or smog, then what will happen? Your Anumana, Parvato Vaniman, will not be correct. Why? There is an Upadhi in your observation. There can be an Upadhi in the way you present it. Because you saw the Vyapti Jnanam as wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Supposing you concluded wherever there is fire, there will be smoke. This Vyapti is not true. Wherever there is fire, there is smoke is not true. Like in a modern kitchen, there is fire but there is no smoke. When you are burning gas, there is fire all right, but there is no smoke. But if you have concluded that, that will become another Upadhi. Therefore, like this, your Anumanam is a process of reasoning. Therefore, you have to ensure that the reasoning is correct. Your observations are right. Vyapti Jnanam is correct. Yeah?
Then that your observation, what you are seeing as a conviction as a smoke, that is not correct.
That is not?
That is not correct. That doesn't become a Brahman.
Yes, it will become Brahma.
It becomes a Brahma.
Yeah, correct. It will become erroneous knowledge. If your Vyapti Jnanam is wrong, your Anumanam goes wrong. There is no way of avoiding that. And inferential conclusions are important. A lot of scientific work is done on inferential conclusion. You go and do a blood test and say your health is in good condition. That my health is in good condition, I know anyway. But what are you doing? What are you measuring? Creatinine factors. From that you are concluding your kidneys are okay. Inferential conclusion. When the creatinine is within these limits, your kidneys are in good health. It's a Vyapti. Vyapti Jnanam. And therefore, this particular pair of kidneys are in good health because this is in normal range. Conclusion. Inferential conclusion. So a blood test that you do. Sonography is direct perception, okay? You are seeing it, na? With the help of instruments, you are seeing it, direct perception. So Anumanam is like this. It all depends upon your Vyapti Jnana. Now they make a slight difference here in terms of how that Vyapti Jnanam works for yourself and for others. Even in Western logic, we have this 3-step syllogism, 5-step syllogism. 3 steps and 5-step inferences. When you are seeing it for yourself, Parvato Vanniman Dhumatvat, the mountain has fire because there is smoke seen. Vyapti Jnanam Yatha campfire. Simple. For yourself. If you are telling it to somebody else, then you have to explain it. Because then you have to put the Vyapti. Parvato Vanniman Dhumatvat Yatha Yatra Yatra Dhumaha Tatra Tatra Vannihi. So it becomes, and 2 additional steps come into the picture. But that's only a minor point there, really speaking. Anumanam understood? Simple enough? At some stage, when you all come enough to learn a little bit of Nyaya from me, that time you will see the complicated versions of Anumanam that is there in Nyaya. Okay? Can you, just to make sure you understand, can you show me some cases where inference works in your life? Yeah?
No call has come from my home since 24 hours, so everything is fine.
That will actually become presumption. That's not inference, presumption. But I'll come to the presumption later. Yeah. Yeah?
The house looks clean, therefore the maid must have come.
The house looks clean.
The maid must have come.
Okay.
If we step out and the road is wet, we assume it may have rained during the lecture.
The inference is, yeah, it has rained when we are in the class. Okay, but there's a little time gap differences. Inference usually is immediate, okay? Yeah. Anyway, but it's applicable. Therefore, there are a lot of cases in your life when inference is very commonly used. Wherever there is fire, there is smoke. So that is a common example. But you hear the sound of a car, you infer it's a car. There can be an upadhi. It may be a youngster playing a game on his phone with loudspeakers, with the speaker on. And that game that he's playing is about cars. Hota hai, nahi hota. Therefore, he inferred there is a car, but actually there is no car, there is only a kid playing. Are you seeing that? Upadhis will always be there where there is a process of reasoning involved. Now, major difference between perception and inference is what? Perception is direct knowledge, straight, right front. Inference is indirect knowledge, because there is a process of mentation, of thinking, of reasoning involved in it. Now the question is, can inference lead to the understanding of truth of yourself? Can, because self is not available for perception. Therefore, what is not available for perception? You will use inference. Can you infer?
No perception, no inference.
There is no data available for the self. What vyapti is available? Remember, for an anumanam, vyapti is there, data should be available. That there is smoke is data. That smoke is connected to fire is vyapti. About the Atma, what data is available? The data is available is your experience. I am a finite being. Sometimes I am happy, sometimes I am dukhi. Generally dukhi, sometimes happy. And I am a finite guy. I am helpless in a lot of situations. Some things I can do. This is the data available. From there you are going to infer the infinite self. What is the vyapti between the infinite self and the data that you have of finite self? Inference is not possible. Any inference that you make will be purely speculative. Therefore, you can have speculative notions of the self based on inference. In fact, that I am a finite being itself is a speculative notion based on inference. Because my experiences are finite, I should be finite. It's a speculative notion. It's not really applicable. Plus one major point. What is the major point? You are direct or indirect? I, Atma, direct, indirect. Anumanam is meant for what? Indirect knowledge. If Atma was indirect, there is a possibility that Anumanam would work. We don't know. Possibility. But if since the Atma happens to be direct, I, self-evident, self-existent, self-evident being, direct. Of that there is an ignorance available. Because there is ignorance about the self, I need knowledge. I need direct knowledge, not indirect knowledge. No indirect knowledge is possible about the Atma. Because Atma is directly known to you as I. Since I am direct, knowledge about the I also has to be direct. Aproksha vastunaha paroksha jnanam nasti. Aproksha vastu, directly available vastu. There is no paroksha jnanam, indirect knowledge. Either you will know or you will not know. Though Anumanam helps, how does it help? To see the mithyatvam of the world. To say the relative nature of the world. It helps. Lot of your Drigdrishya Viveka, etc., lot of the mithyatva nischaya of the world is based on Anumanam. Yad drishyam tad anityam yata gataha. Whatever you see is finite, like the pot which you see is finite. Why? Yatra yatra rupatvam, tatra tatra anityatvam. Wherever there is a rupa, a form, there is anityatvam. Clean vyapti, available from your experience. Now, people try to establish Ishvara through Anumana. Forget the self. Is Ishvara established by Anumana? You would have heard the logic. The one who creates something should know it. Anything finite is created. When you see the pot, you know there is a potter. Pot maker, potter. When you see a carpet, you know there is a carpet maker. What is a carpet maker called?
Weaver.
Huh?
Weaver.
A weaver?
Carpet weaver. Carpet weaver.
Okay. Not a carpetier, no? You know it's there. I see the world. Therefore I know there has to be a creator. Sorry, wrong logic if you're writing it down. That logic is not applicable. Why is it not applicable? The example is fine. The Vyaptik Jnanam is there. Wherever you see a pot, pots are not created on their own. Pots are created by a human being. That Vyaptik Jnanam is very clearly known to you. This universe is created by someone. You have Vyaptik Jnanam? You have talked about one thing in the Greek and you are extending it to the totality. Not applicable. Not applicable.
Can be inferred. Inference.
It can't be inferred. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Ishvara is not a matter for inference. You can't infer an Ishvara. Because to infer an Ishvara, first you have to prove the universe is created. What is created, I can prove. Ishvara is, universe is created, how do you prove? Pot is created, I seen a pot being created. I know there is praka bhava, pradvamsa bhava. Two terms I'm introducing. Praka bhava, prior non-existence. That means non-existence before the pot was created. It didn't exist. Once the pot is destroyed, it will not exist. So prak and pradvamsa bhava. Prior and later non-existence. I know. Universe, how many universes have you seen? How many universes have you seen? No, but science tells that is the most likely theory of a Big Bang and a Big Crunch. That's the most current theory available.
Because of some assumption.
Yeah. Even that, there is no logic to establish it. God is not, Ishvara is not established by logic. Okay, let us assume this is a creation. Okay? Assumption now, it is not fact. It's an assumption. But this is called Ardhangikara argument. An argument you give, half accepting it. Not fully accepting. Okay, for the time being, let us take it like that. This auditorium is a creation. We see a lot of auditoriums being built. We know this also has been built. Did this auditorium have a single creator? There is an architect, there is an engineer, there is an electrician, there is a plumber, there is a carpenter, there is a mason, there is a bricklayer. How many people are there? Dozens. A small auditorium requires a dozen creators. Universe will require what? If by inference you will go, you cannot come to one God. You will come to a pantheon of gods like the Greeks came. The Greeks went about it through purely logically. So they had a pantheon. One god for love, one god for Mars, one god for agriculture, because that is a predominant occupation. So now you need one god for computers, one god for science. I said you'll have to keep on diversifying. Exactly like how you diversify the makers of all this. So even if you are going logically, you will never come to one Ishvara. And then you will have to have big boss on top of that. Zeus. Jehovah. You will have to have. Pantheon means, it's like a committee. You need a chairman there. You need a secretary. Same problems. That's why they say we created God in our image. God did not create us in His image. We have created God in our image because we went on it logically. So the pramana for knowing God, exactly like the pramana for knowing yourself, is not perception or inference. It is a Shabda which we will deal with later. But Anumanam can again be used to understand. Once you understand what the Upanishad is talking about Ishvara, etc., then you can understand by saying, yes, he has to be Sarvajnaha, Sarvavyapi, all that you can understand using Anumanam. Since the potter knows the pot, everything to deal with the pot, similarly, Ishvara has to know everything to deal with the world. Once you establish an Ishvara through the pramana, then to understand how he is Sarvajnaha, etc., you can use a logic. That's okay. Logic will help you understand. But logic does not establish. The Ishvara that we talk about can be supported by logic, can be understood by logic, it cannot be established by logic. Logic means inference and presumption. That is why science cannot either establish or dismiss Ishvara. Why? It's because it's working with perception, inference, presumption, etc., which we will come to later. It can neither establish nor dismiss. Why? It's out of the paradigm of science. It's out the paradigm of science. So Vedanta doesn't talk about science, science doesn't talk about Vedanta talks about. Bhinna Prakaranam, separate sections, separate branches of knowledge. Economics doesn't talk about science, science doesn't talk about economics. Why? Different sections. Both knowledge useful for us. So there are knowledge useful. Science we accept, of course, sir. It's not that we are anti-science just because I'm dismissing certain things in science. Okay? I'm very pro-science. My background is from science. Yeah. Background is from that. Yeah. But certain things it cannot do. This is Anumanam. For the time being, this much is enough. Any questions, clarifications you need for Anumanam? Simple? Yep. Sorry, you have to speak louder. Can someone repeat that question so by to think it? Upadhi. An apparent limitation. Or if we are using it for Anumanam, a flaw in reasoning. A flaw or a limitation in reasoning. Like my eyes have an upadhi. My eyes have an upadhi. Can I see you all? Of course I can see you all. Do I see you all very clearly? No, I can make out where your eyes, nose, mouth, etc. is. The color of the dress that you are wearing. All that I can make out. But do I see the fine nuances of your expression? Frowning, doubt. That much I can. Some details I miss. That's the upadhi. Therefore, I need an upadhi to enhance it. Now I can make out their expression in the eyes. Upadhi. Okay. So it's a limitation or an instrument used to enhance. Both ways it can be used to overcome the limitation. Anumanam clear? The Nayayika will be very upset. Because in Vedanta Paribhasha, about Anumanam is a few pages. In Tarka Sangraha it is half the book. Because they have different types of logic. Then they classify errors in logic also. There's a half a dozen classification of errors in logic, etc. We don't bother about that. Okay. Okay.
Creation versus manifestation, something more on that.
What is that?
The creation versus manifestation.
I'll come to that later. There will be a little separate topic, so I'll come to that later. Okay, so for Anumanam. The next, logically, what should be taken would be presumption, Arthapati. But I'm not going to go into Arthapati, I'm going to go into comparison. Why? I'm juggling time. It's called Upamana, comparative knowledge. Okay. This guy goes, after hearing that our Prime Minister has been in the wild. You heard the Prime Minister gone to Kedarnath. Kedarnath is packed. There's queues for darshan. Hum log jata tha, we used to walk in and walk out. The crowd would be because 30 of my students have come with me. That was there as a crowd. Yeah. So this guy decided to go to this wildlife sanctuary. He was going. Hey, in that sanctuary is well known. Both sand hai. What is sand? What is that? Now what am I going to say? Something like your buffalo. Something like your buffalo. The buffalo mein dekha, haan, lekin sand is different. Acha. Then he goes, he sees a sand. The wild water buffalo he sees. Now what happens? Nobody has come back and told me, sand is not exactly like a water buffalo. Not meant to be. If sand was exactly like water buffalo, they would have become synonymous. Correct? It's a different creature altogether. Not altogether, same family, but different creature. The knowledge of similars is gained by comparative knowledge, isn't it? This system by which you understand that there are some of the qualities here, there, you extend that comparative knowledge is called upaman. This is the knowledge of comparison. So of similarities. This is the knowledge of similarities that give it to you. Upamiti karanam. A lot of our comparative studies are same. Lot of science has developed because of upamanam. You compare two things, is that, so what is similar, what is this, what is that? All your data analysis is what? Upamanam. So many people came from this background, that many people came from that background, so many people are upamanam. Very simple. Comparative knowledge. But it is not inference, it is not perception. No? It is not inference or perception. It's a separate degree of knowledge. A better example would be if I were to say, this guy is going to USA and is going to visit some wildlife parks there. 2 minutes. Yeah. Abhi aata hai. 5 minutes mein. So he used to say, what is up? I say, hey, that's a very peculiar animal there in USA. Okay? It's a bison. Go and have a look at the bison. What is a bison? Something like our sand. Something like a water buffalo. Something like water buffalo means what? I'm not very sure about water buffalo. Acha. Have you seen Bahubali movie? Ah, dekha hai. Second one, where you seen that guy fighting against, that is water buffalo. Because everyone has not seen a water buffalo, मैं क्या करूँ? Bahubali movie they have seen. The Reckoning, the second one. So you see the guy fighting? That is the water. So he goes to a wildlife park and sees a bison. Acha, this must be the bison. Why? Because this is similar to that. Now the same. Similar. So all these types of comparative knowledge that you gain is called upamanam. When you compare two things and understand something more, upamanam comes into the picture. Anybody in their studies have come across upamanam? Studies, work, discussion. Please give me an example so that I know that you all are understanding what I am saying.
Catenary, we explain other.
Huh?
Catenary is like
Yeah. Okay. Accepted. Yeah. Part and whole. Understanding. Okay. Okay. Now let us look at whether upamanam can lead you to the truth, understanding the truth. For that, what will I do say? Atma is like what? Is there a comparable example? Comparable example. It need not be the same. Should be a comparable example. Huh? Good one. Like space. Okay. Now you saw space. You know space. Then what are you going to do? Now you have to go and see Atma. Is Atma available for perception? Upamana will not work. Because for Upamana, the water buffalo and the bison both should be available for perception. Here Atma is not available. Even if space is an example, the differences are too vast. One is sentient, other is insentient. Opposites ho gaya. Opposite ho gaya. So there are certain things for which there is no example available. It's as a Sanskrit verse like that. Gaganam Gagana Sadrasham. Space is like space. Sagaram Sagara Upamam. The ocean is like the ocean. What example will you give? Go and say ocean is like my pond. Or like my swimming pool. Can you? Ocean that can sink a continent you are talking about, Baba. Can't compare. Then they say the fight between Rama and Ravana. Rama Ravanayor yad yuddham. The fight there is there. What is it compared to? Fight between Rama and Ravana. There is no comparison. So similarly, why no comparison? You know, Hanuman was sitting on top of Arjuna's chariot during Mahabharata. Promise here given. I will support you. That's important. Why? If Hanuman sits on a chair, you can't shake it. Can't shake it. Solid guy sitting there. Yeah. It's not like me sitting here, 70 kilos ka aadmi baitha hai. It's sorry, there's a mountain sitting there. And at the end of Mahabharata, he was asked, how do you find this battle? Theek tha. There were some fireworks. The greatest battle of its time. I think there were some fireworks. When that bacha fought, poor guy, he died. There was fireworks, Abhimanyu. That was good battle. Then, when that old man fought, Bhishma, and his chariot rolled. Otherwise, one arrow going, one by one. Why do you say that? Wasn't it a great battle? By your standards it was, not by our standards. Why? We used to throw trees across, forests across, mountains across. Kya baat kar raha hai? When Rama shot his arrows, it was like 1,000 Arjunas. Can't be compared. But at least both are available for perception. So you can talk of dissimilarities at least. Atma is not available for perception. Therefore, what are you going to compare it with? I will study 50,000 human beings and come to understand what the Atma is. You will understand 50,000 human beings. You can understand 50,000 cadavers and what their bodies are made of. You can understand that. For that you don't need 50,000. But you can get some understanding. But here you can't. Not available for comparison. Even God you can't. God is not available for comparison. Ishvara is not available for comparison. So Upamitik Jnanam will not work there. Neither for Ishvara nor for the Atma. So neither Anumanam, neither perception first, nor Anumanam, nor Upamanam. None of them will work with respect to the Atma. Any questions or clarifications? Clear? After perception, this seems lighter, no? Perception you all struggled over. Because that's the major one. That's the most important one. Okay? Anumanam, Upamanam, clear? Then the next class we will go into Arthapatti, deductive logic. Okay? Sherlock Holmes was very great for that. He used a combination of Anumana, Upamana, Arthapatti and Anupalabdhi together. But that we will see next class.